it's Shirley with Spirit of Matter, and today I'm with an episode about the new moon in Aries, um, which will be in March 21. And in the Middle East, you need to adjust the chart to your location. So I'm starting this episode as I always do by checking the chart of when I started to air. Um, and this is a Venus day with Mars hour. It's already dark outside, so I don't know what is the night lord of Friday evening. So the evening of Saturday, is it already the time lord of Saturn? Um, and the ascendant is in 25 degrees of Virgo. The ascendant is right a degree away from my ascendant, so it's very interesting composition for me. Um, and the midheaven in 25 degrees of Gemini. Uh, so this is interesting flip. Um, Mars in Gemini, that is the Lord of the hour according to this computation, but again, I need night lords. Is square Neptune, applying to square Neptune only 4 degrees away, and separating from a square to the Sun. Mercury is already in Pisces. I did a video earlier today about Mercury in Pisces, and there are some pivotal moments around the context of Mercury's passage in Pisces, though it's only 2 weeks, so you can watch this episode. With the Mars, I predict my outlook. Mars is also the ruler of the new moon. So my prediction is that issues around divisiveness, setting boundaries, certain, because of Aries, assertiveness, asserting your identity in the world. So Mars as severing ties with the unjust, Mars as an act of speech here, Mars in Gemini, and Mars as asserting yourself or initiating. Mars can also be divisive, so there can be things that I may say that will be divisive or might steer in a conflict or conflict. And so it's both for me to be cautious that this is the framework from which I'm looking at the new moon, and for you to be aware that if you're watching this and you hear something that steers you up, understand that there is cosmic play in here, and you can, the comment section, if you are writing in a way that is fair, or you get a good election for commenting, then we can have a discourse, and whether it's me changing my mind or you checking why are you steered in that way, um, and keep a civil discussion. More Venus is with Chiron, and still with Jupiter, so this triple conjunction of Venus, Jupiter, and Chiron is still active in Aries. And we see here an appliance sextile by Lilith. The moon is just ingressed into Leo with the sun in Pisces, where it will spend the next, I believe, 2.5 days, and it's separating from an opposition to Pluto and Capricorn. There is a square to the nodes by Lilith, an exact square, and an appliance square to the nodes by the moon. Uranus is sextiling the sun right now, and that's the heavens as I begin this episode. Now, without further ado, let's turn to the new moon. The new moon in Aries will be in 21 degrees, 21st, 21 März 2023. And happening in the middle decan, the middle Aries. The Mercury Mercury in Pisces is already beginning to play in my mind and make my communication blurry. So, Sun Moon conjunct New Moon in Aries. What else is around? There is vortex here. And vortex is interesting. There is a question amongst my Israeli colleagues whether a vortex even has a predictive meaning that you can work with in delineation, whether it's synastry or just, in transit delineation. Because the vortex point is, I don't even remember what is it comprised by, but it can yield a fated event. That being said, sometimes nothing happens, sometimes something happens. And it can be when vertex is crossing something in your chart, then there can be a pivotal or a meaningful fated event that you have in relation to this vertex if it's aspecting something in your chart. So I cannot ignore. I'm sorry, this is not the middle phase of Aries. Look, it's already going to be a funny way, but there is no way for me to talk about, like, if I didn't do it when Mercury was in Aquarius, then I must deal with the fluidity of observation. So this is 0 degree Aries. It's not the middle phase, it's just drawn here. The line is drawn here in the middle phase of Aries, but it's confusing. It's just the 0 degrees Aries. Sorry. So, collecting it together. Vertex, sun moon, okay? Vertex conjuncting the new moon. That means that there may be a chance, and again, my colleagues are, and Israeli colleagues are conflicted around that. Um, but there may be a chance that this new moon will bring some fated event, both on a mundane level, on a personal level. It adds to the fatedness of things. That being said, it can be that it means nothing. Like we don't know. If you are more experienced in vertex, please feel free to comment or to link to a video where you discuss it and respond to my video. The 0 degree. So this is a good time to stop, stop and talk about the 0 degree. The 0 degree of every sign, especially in Aries. Let's do every sign first and then Aries, because 0 degree in every sign is the entrance to a new territory. It's a very meaningful degree where the in it experiences a brand new beginning. So, for example, if it is an outer planet, or if you are like me and having Pluto in the 0 degree of a sign in your chart, that means that the soul passage, or what you're doing, the evolutionary path, is completely new to your soul. You haven't done this before. I don't think it is Rahu, because Rahu gives you more the hunger to strive towards something, but it can also give the fear because you don't know how to go about it. But definitely the 0 degree, it means that this is a new day. There's something new happening, a meaningful something new happening. We pay attention to the anaretic degree, that's the 29th degree, where the planet is wise. So it knows the territory so well that it can predict the moves of what will happen in the next time that it steps in this territory. 0 degrees is the exact opposite. It's tabula rasa. You think about the tabula rasa, the Lokian form of tabula rasa. Um, and tabula rasa just means that you come to this world having no preliminary knowledge or system or structure that escorts you. So when you reach the 0 degrees of a sign, you're at the tabula rasa state, okay, the clean page state relative to this sign. So this is true to any planet in the 0 degrees if you have it in your natal chart. If it is signifying, if it's an election of something, okay. What the good thing about tabula rasa is you come with no prejudice. You haven't been here before. Of course, the planets have been there before, but this is a new day. Okay? If I have not seen, let's say I am Pluto, and I have not seen Aquarius in 248 years, then I don't know. Like I have no idea. Think about coming to a place you haven't visited. Maybe think about your childhood city or a childhood house, and you just come there. You have no idea what's going on. You may remember something from somewhere. I know it's not exactly the idea of tabula rasa, but I'm trying to adapt the concept of tabula rasa um, to the cosmic where the planets actually have been in these houses. And you understand that what was is 300 years ago or 250 years ago is no longer valid. You come anew to this place. And that in general gives you the ability to see something in new eyes. It's the first time you see this place in this way. It's the first time you see this place in this way. And your action is dictated by the tabula rasa state. So if I don't know who you are, I don't know anything about you, okay? I greet you. Depending on the planet and the house and the sign, my reaction or my experience is going to be brand new to me. Okay, think about, and immediately I had the first time you sleep with someone. Okay, they're brand new to you because up until then you dated them. Maybe you had some jokes. Maybe you had some this. Maybe you thought, how would they be? How would they this? How would they that? Poof, you end up in intimacy together. They're completely new to you. Absolutely new. It's a whole new person. Okay, and that can have several implications. One, if I haven't seen anything like that before, I just I just assume that that's the way it is. Or alternatively, I just bring myself, the planet, into the house. Okay? If I come to a brand new state, come to a brand new state. And I'm Israeli, Middle Eastern, so when I speak with my hands, and I want to say something to the people, and I speak with my hands. Suddenly they're terrified because they think I'm going to strangle or attack them, or I do something with the hands. They think I'm going to bring, or maybe my hands bring certain energy that is not good for them, and they just coil back. I don't know, like I would not necessarily ascribe their reaction to me speaking with my hands. I would just think, maybe, well, they're scared of something, I don't know what. And I can try to speak even to say that I come in peace, and then have even grander gestures, and again speak with my hands, and so now my gestures are even bigger. Now they're even more afraid of me. Okay, so that is something that can happen. Alternatively, and I can give a concrete example from advertising and marketing. I was working as a campus a leader or manager of replacing someone who went to a vacation for, like, she was pregnant, she went on vacation, and so not permanently replacing her. And we had an advertisement in a school, a university, like a college, and that school was around high tech, and I was told that I'll only speak about advertising in the computer science department. And as I was speaking and corresponding with the lady in the college, um, I asked her if I can just advertise in the entire school, in the entire department. It was an engineering school. And we were doing high tech. So I was just asking if I could just advertise in the entire school. It was free advertisement. And she was like, of course, which ended up with me closing a course that nobody expected me to close. Like I was just the first, I was tabula rasa, so I didn't have the limitation that the lady will tell me, no, it's not relevant, it's not this, it's not that. I just came tabula rasa and like, in Hebrew say, it's an Arabic expression, so ana tambal, okay? I'm stupid, I don't know. So I just asked and said, well, can I do that? And I got a yes. And so instead of, I don't know, 300 people seeing that, we had the entire school. So maybe 20,000 people having this advertisement in the mail. Just because of a conversation, free of charge for the company. That is another power of the tabula rasa, especially in Aries. And now to the energetic, to the 0 degree in Aries. Aries is considered the head, the beginning of the astrological year. The bringing of the spring, the head of the baby. Um, I don't know if it is correct to compare it with Nissan because Nissan is more based on sidereal astrology and we're doing tropical, so we're doing time frame based astrology rather than constellation in the sky based astrology. Um, but the symbolic notion of Aries as the significator of the new year, the new beginning. Think of all your Christmas resolutions or your Rosh Hashanah resolutions. April, like the 0 degree, not even April 1st, the 0 degree of Aries, that's your New Year's resolution. Okay, at least sidereally, or now we're working tropically. So it's a new beginning on a new beginning on a new beginning on a new beginning on a fated event on a fated event, and so on and so forth. And just by observing that, I see that the full moon that we are about to have. Uh, mm, this is very interesting. The new moon we had in Pisces, I believe, was also 0 degrees. I'm not sure. The full moon, I'm sorry, I don't remember. I think it is 1 degree Virgo. But this 0 degrees Aries is especially potent new moon. Um, and this is right from the get go. So, on a personal level, you have a fated new beginning, or you have the potential to have a fated new beginning. With Vertex, it's not so predictable. So you could say, well, I'm thinking, let's say it's your second house, I'm thinking to grow my wealth this year, and then something happens and you cannot work, and so you have to actually grow your wealth in our like you were thinking to start some creative project, and then you cannot work, so you have to grow your wealth in a different way, maybe have a new skill that you, I don't know, collect fruits or exchange things for like trade in a different way, or let's say it's a relationship, so you were actually thinking that you're going to um, I don't know, date somebody, and then Vertex comes along, and you actually decide that you're going to focus on earning a new skill around or thinking about relationships or having new beginning relationships that's more related to, I don't know, therapy, or something that is not just dating someone. Um, yeah, the first phase of Aries is what I call the Mars, and that depends on um, how do you read the faces. Let me see if I can have the we have the traditional, because that would give me also the faces. this gives me the terms, which is Jupiter term. So this is a very brand. The term is Jupiter term. Do I have faces? Some way here, but yeah. And I will try to do Antisha and contra Antisha, just to look at it. It's new to me. It's the concept is not new to me, but interpreting in online is new to me. And just to pay attention to that. Tissue, what is contra tissue, what is on these. Um, so in terms of the face, it is Mars. I call it the Mars because it's the Mars face of Aries, which is ruled by Mars. With Mars still in Gemini, I believe. Okay, let's go back to the chart. In the 28th degree of Gemini, which is Saturn ruled in terms of the term. Saturn already in Pisces. What happened? I need to do a couple of turning backs. Saturn already in Pisces, trining, separating from, or separating? No, Mars is applying to trine Saturn. The planet that's moving quicker is applying to, okay, so Mars is applying to trine Saturn. That is already in Pisces. Well, it's an activation of Mars, which is in Gemini in a Saturn ruled term, with Saturn aspecting with a good aspect to Saturn, but Saturn is in Pisces, which is absolutely nothing to do. When I talk about Saturn in Pisces, I said Saturn in Pisces asks how many water is in the ocean. And that is something we need to remember. So even though we have this optimistic new beginning, the ruler of this new beginning is separating from the square to Neptune, and is not at the best position. It's in a place where it could be realistic had Saturn been in Aquarius, but it's not. And so it's kind of like the Jupiter-Venus conjunction that we have right now that is very optimistic, although the ruler Mars is still very much applying to square Neptune. Um, and Mercury is still very much separating from Saturn. So there is positivity, there is optimism. There can also be, it's a beginning that you start right now, but you will need to correct yourself. Perhaps in September when all the planets go retrograde, we're heading towards the ending of the period where all the planets are direct. So we have been moving forward a lot. This is marking the beginning of the moving forward, which will already, with the new moon in Aries, will already need to be readjusted as planets go retrograde. So think of a new moon as we are beginning a new cycle of 2 weeks, 1 month, of course, when the moon will return to trigger the point of the new moon, and 6 months, and to a certain extent a year. Okay, so 6 months is the full moon in Aries, and a year is the next new moon in Aries. So if you think about these cycles, we understand that this cycle is very optimistic and will need to readjust. And that is in the spirit of Aries. Aries is a lot about act first, think later, and it can be intuitively impulsive, so the good impulse. It is, think about the head of the baby that goes into the great unknown, that is the physical incarnation. You do have to be very impulsive to do such an act. The flip side of it is, of course, that you can impulsively and rashly run into something, and then you have to correct yourself along the way. It's a cardinal sign. It starts, it ignites something, but then it will have to reignite, whether it's reignite the fire or reignite the passion, um, and reignite something new. So the secret with Aries and longevity is you have to reignite something anew, see something anew each time. So if that's a relationship or a commitment that you have, you need to make sure you are the source of constantly rejuvenating, constantly doing things. So for me, for example, with astrology, it's always new. It's always new to me. Every once in a while, if I begin to look at Antishas here, there, I always try something new so I don't get bored from the skill of astrologizing, sozusagen. This new beginning is very much in the spirit of that. What we need to understand is that this new beginning is not making an aspect to anything. There is this Mars that is applying yeah, it's a separating square from Mars. So there we do have this separating square from Mars. Um, so the ruler of this lunation is at odds, it's square, it's in tension with the new beginning. Mars is probably tired by now. It has spent so much time in Gemini. So it's been doing the marathon for extended periods of time. Um, Beyond the marathon. Okay, it's been doing the Uranus with the Mars, and that can be translated in many ways. So we can probably Mars is eager to get the out of here, um, even if the next sign is Cancer, and there's just something around what happens here. Another degree that keeps showing up is the fifth degree. So the nodes in the fifth degree, Venus is in the fifth degree, Mercury is in the fifth degree, Venus in Taurus, Mercury in Aries, and Mars is in Mercury's sign. So Mercury is very much involved. Um, we have here the ascendant on the exact, is it to the minute? No, it's not to the minute. So the ascendant is less the point here, but Mercury is ruling the sign where Mars is, and Mars is the ruler of the lunation. So Mercury is prominent here. It is in the fifth degree of Aries. And if we look at the number 5, the nodes are in the fifth degree, which is not yet triggered by an eclipse, but it adds to the equation, and Venus is in the fifth degree. So fifth degree, the number 5 itself is a number of change, of creation, creativity, which adds to the cardinal new beginning. Mercury is trade, Mercury is children, Mercury is um, trickery, and also being trustworthy in contracts. So contracts, communication, is the things that we need to rely on each other's trusts, agreements, lawyers, traders. So innovators in this case, it can also be innovators. So a small technology, the technology we use every day, are email correspondence or WhatsApp correspondence or whatnot. Um, and Venus in Taurus in the same sign. So, well, Venus is not very activated here. Still, that Venus is conjuncting the nodes. Again, nodes are more triggered by eclipses. They can be a trigger point, although, again, like the nodes are just retrograde, so she's not triggering. Uh, is she triggering an eclipse point? I'm not sure. She might be triggering like, it's definitely triggering the eclipse axis, Is it to the point that something meaningful happens with Venus conjuncting the nodes? I don't know. Maybe. Um, but there is an emphasis on being creative that's just going on. Um, that's as far as I see it. Uh, yeah. So it's not all rosy, but also it is some fresh start, even if you have to adjust. And the best thing to do when Mars is still separating from the square to Neptune is to understand that what you're beginning right now, even if it doesn't fall through, it's important for you to begin. Um, and they can be I talked about it. I re-emphasize this both in my shorts and in my videos and my even my Venus wisdom on a Venus day with Venus and Chiron. I talk repeatedly about make pitches that are on a grand scale, make far-fetched pitches, because that is going to set the events so that the adjustments needed are going to be made, even if right now you don't have the whole picture. Make far fetched pitches now because you set the stage for something that later on Uranus and Gemini is going to establish on a grand scale. So think about the one person that tells you, hey, there's no reason you need to be sleeping in your car looking for a job or working, full shift and sleeping in your car. If you want to be in a house, because housing for you, including property taxes, including everything that you hold, is tax deductible. And so there shouldn't be no reason that even if you don't have welfare system that supports in your country, there shouldn't be no reason that you have to be living in the street, that you won't have land, that you won't have housing, that you don't want to have perhaps a condo or a company that takes care of the welfare of the place. Because it's all tax deductible. If an armchair costs $30,000, because and the designer can get this money because there are people who are just looking to invest and make a tax deductible expense, then there shouldn't be no reason why your basic needs and even way beyond should not be taken care of. It's not about bad choices you made in your life. There's just something going on here. So it can be just some person saying that, or some person asking from people who do real estate. It's like, hey, your your debt is tax deductible, but also if you give me property and you give me land and you give me a place to do, I don't know, artistic stuff or heal myself, or I already have a job but I cannot afford housing, so I get the place to be, you get tax deduction, and it also increases your credit score if you actually took a loan to buy this and not yet return it, depending on how you play it, if you write it on a trust, because you can actually have that where you can take a loan and not immediately start paying if you know that, like, yeah. So that depending on many things, but definitely you can use it as donation and that's tax deductible. You can use it as marketing, because if I live in the house and you hire a company that takes care of the house, and we decided we're going to do a video and I'm going to show how to live in the house, how your real estate is, how your tenants are, then it's also marketing, and marketing is tax deductible. So if I'm a liability to you, it means that I'm a profit to you. It means that I'm your cash flow while you are showing the face of debt in front of the IRS or whatnot. Um, so this is the time to begin to say that. Now, of course, there can be many accountants things that will fall into place, and the bigger picture will be taken care of. And then Uranus comes to Gemini. Now we have a civil war over housing. Okay, we have a civil war over people requiring things, requiring that, and then some wealthy people who are afraid of losing their wealth or afraid of being attacked or whatnot, can decide to come with this initiation. It's totally tax deductible to just pro bono lands and housing to people and pay their property taxes for 50 years. So hey, it's not like it hasn't been done before, and that creates new generational wealth, and that is being done on a mass scale. But the person who just gave this idea did it during a Mars opposition Neptune. Okay. This new moon is excellent for these grand gestures, grand pitching, transgender woman running for the presidency in Iran, kind of a thing. Those things that are far fetched, that you don't like, they seem like, are you crazy? But when Uranus is going to come to Gemini and there will be a mass unrest, then it will already be seem very legitimate to just settle things. A lot of our social rights, we got them following exactly similar events. Okay, the 1st of May is not colored red. Originally, it is colored blue. And if not for the unionizations of employees in Ford factories, um, in employees that didn't have their time, that didn't have, that were replaced by the Industrial Revolution, if not for their unionizations, a lot of our social rights and ability to even watch this video would not exist. That being said, when people do have leisure time and they start, historically, when people start to have a day off and not know what to do with their time, so what do? You go to a coffee shop, you buy coffee, you play chess with your friends, or you go with you get a dog. You get a dog because you want to be active, and then you go with your doggy to a cafe for doggies, or you travel. Okay, then you get something new, some technological thing. You get a camera, so you start filming everything. Before the cell phone, we used to have these small cameras. Not we, I was not born yet, but these small cameras of film, and people used to film themselves way before the beginning of industrial or industrial filmmaking. Okay, and everybody were excited about this, so they kept films, they kept filming themselves, they had leisure time, and they could document themselves, and family events and so on and so forth. And then when you study filmmaking, then you look into these footages and you explore how the consciousness changed from these old movies to the movies we have today, even in documentaries. um, so good things to do is have these grand ideas, especially in Jupiter term. You're gonna think big, think huge, and act on it. With Aries, you're gonna be compelled to do that. It's your initiation. It's not something that happens to you, this new moon. Not at all. You get a spark of insight, a spark of genius, a spark of, crazy idea, and you act on it. You think it, you do it. You pitch something crazy, you turn to someone, you shoot a video, you write something crazy and post it on social media. You make a move on somebody, I don't know, that you consider way above your league. Okay, even in dating, one of the techniques that is given to people that think that have insecurity is to start dating or start trying to get the attention of people who are way above their league from their point of view. There's no such thing as about your league, but people can be insecure or whatnot, and because you don't even have the expectation that that will fall through, if something happens, you're like, oh damn. And that is actually the energy that can make tremendous, this the energy of tabula rasa is the energy that can make things that you didn't even expect happen in your life. Yes, it would need readjustment. Yes, it would need this. Yes, it would need that. Another energy, if I think about the Me Too, Uranus and Aries conjuncted in Aries. And as I was doing my own, like, even before I started the satire, I was talking about science and the big thing. Like, I was on purpose thinking very, 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 very big. And before the Me Too, there was even a time where I said, well, in how many years am I ahead of my time because I feel rather lonely? A couple of months later, boom, Me Too, path, Uranus conjunct Aries, and boom. Um, and so what we were preparing our deathbeds basically. Then suddenly verdicts started to turn around. Okay, no, there is, like, naming is not shaming. If somebody does sexually harass people on a grand scale, the importance of the public to know that and be cautious overcomes the um, the concept of shaming or slandering or whatnot. It's not slandering to say this person is harassing people and nobody's doing anything about it, and you can't prove it because they gaslight people. Okay, you can't prove it because they keep secret, because they hide, because they gain your trust, and then you don't record things with people who are like family to you. Then they create this intimacy, and then poof, they break it because this is strategy to them. Then you understand that naming a person like that is not shaming. Um, Before that, like, oh my God, oh my God. And this is another good example of how you do something with Mars, okay, Aries ruled by Mars, and it looks far fetched. It looks like you're out of touch with reality, when in fact you're creating reality. Then Uranus comes in, the outer planet comes in, and it becomes a campaign. It becomes a civil war. It becomes an activism, and so on and so forth. I'm talking about the good things around it. Okay. Um, so this new moon in Aries, the sense of self. I think, therefore I am. So mindset, thinking, brightness, new scientific ideas. To some extent, they can bloom later. They will need readjustment. New philosophies of life. Um, Physical athleticism. You can also work, train your body. Do be cautious because Mars and Gemini can tend to, and how can I say be cautious to Aries? It's like, okay. Vitality and anything new in your life. So, Chiron is still in Aries, Jupiter is still in Aries. Okay? So we have this huge, not huge, but it's quite big stellium in Aries of Moon, Sun, Mercury, Chiron, Jupiter. And I do include Chiron, especially with the proximity here to Jupiter, still 2 degrees from Jupiter. A lot. Okay, so one, five planets in Aries. It's a new beginning on steroids. Now, April 30, if I'm not mistaken, April 30, we already have the first eclipse on the Aries Libra axis. So it's Aries on steroids. It's a new beginning on steroids, knowing that things will need to be readjusted. Again, I'm going to give the Me Too example yet again because when Uranus conjuncted Aries in Aries, Me Too broke out. Okay, and so one of the things I was the person talking about the structure of the academic and so on, and to decentralize the structure, how the very mechanisms that and structures that allowed for plagiarism and psychological abuse and sexual harassment, and now I know also sex trafficking, like downright sex trafficking. Um, and like what happened to me was just because I said no to sex trafficking. It took me even 5 years, 6 years, 7 years to know that. Well, not 7 years, but yeah, 7 years already since that. And
and now there is this notion that even for me, I later went to a psychologist who was trained in the academia. I didn't go on purpose, I was just looking for therapy that is affordable for me. And a psychologist that was trained in the academia, when it's me that was speaking about the structure of academia and how destructive it is to the well-being of people. And as I was speaking with my psychologist, who will eventually be violent to me back then, I was literally saying, well, you know what? In psychology, you know that there is transference, there is this, there is that. And I was being so naive back then. I was like, maybe we need to have more awareness of transferences in relations between, instructors or teachers or lecturers and their TAs, their students, and so on and so forth. Or maybe we need to have assistance for people to be able to process transferences that happen in a way that they don't act it out, that they don't abuse each other, and they don't cause trauma. Because it is like deep psychological stuff that nobody gets assistance for. Lo and behold, it was my psychologist who will be violent to me. And of course he would be, because he was trained in the academia, in the place where there is human trafficking. And if you say no, you get sexually harassed, you get plagiarized, and so on and so forth. And so that's the type of adjustments that's needed, and the frustration of like, I was going to take responsibility over my life and not do anything, you know and take care of my own healing so that I can move on, and so that I can be have even deeper clarity of mind relative to what's needed to do and what's needed to be, and the changes that are need to take place, so that my action will come from a more clear motive, pure motive, and I will arrange my own issues with attachment, with this, with that. And no, like, yes, it's a good motive, it's good to keep it, but there was no way for me to do that in the structure that I was living in. Okay, especially with Pluto going through Aquarius. Yeah. So this new beginning, I'm not saying either. Me too is more like Uranus Aries revolution here. Here it is a cardinal and optimistic new beginning. You think about what you do want in your life. Aries is what I do want in your life. What I do want in my life. And there are certain adjustments that are going to need to be made. It's good to be optimistic now. It's okay that not everything will fall through. And when Uranus hits Gemini, um, things do begin to emerge on a societal level around these topics that Mars is addressing right now at the end of Gemini, which happens to be a degree away from my Juno and IC. Quite personal. But whatever you have in Gemini, especially in the last phase and term of Gemini, then that is what Mars is trying to address right now with this new moon, knowing that you don't have the full picture and still just tending to it, pouring that much energy into moving forward, um, is just the course of the times. It's not just, it's necessary. It's created a necessity that is the mother of invention. It's not just necessary, it's just the course of time, it's the zeitgeist. So you think about the next year, and think about you planning a house. You're planning the house, and you go to an architect, and you have your passions and desires, and you say, I don't know, I want 7 pools, 3 bathrooms in each room, 5 jacuzzis, I want this, I want that. And then you go to the architect, and they're like, okay, um, but the temperature in this area, how do you plan to keep the pipes warm? Because half of the time your pools and jacuzzis will be freezing, and that would require an extra so and so and so money. Okay, so at first it's good if you're coming to me, let's say I want to design with you, or think tank groups. One of my specialties is think tank groups, get people to expand their minds. um, so If you come to me in the brainstorming, which is this new moon is brainstorming stage, I don't talk to you about prices. If you try to talk to me about the price, I'm like, no, 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 no. Let's just try to scrape out the layers where we get to your deepest, to your truest desires and manifest them. You don't know what's possible. You don't know what's possible. Let's just stick to that. Because otherwise, if we don't know that you desire this, then I might decorate something for you, I might come up with an idea, and you'll be constantly complaining. Things will not fall through, it will not this, will not that. And the root cause is that I'm designing a great project that you don't truly desire. Because you've compromised way before you've acknowledged what you actually want. Okay? That's why, for example, I had people calling me from like real estates or whatnot, trying to talk to me. I was like, "What is your estimate price?" Because they want to already close the deal. And I'm like, "No, I'm in the brainstorming phase." And then I realized that there are some really expensive estates, even like in Tel Aviv, that I actually, while I think they're lovely, I actually don't deeply desire because they don't answer what I need from a home. Lo and behold, it's not just the money. It's not like I have the money, I don't have the money. It's like, hey, if I had the money and I would not think it through, I would probably get, oh my gosh, I can buy, an estate in New York. I can buy an estate in this, I can buy an estate in that. Boom, I buy it. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. That being said, it could also be that I would not find the estate because I don't actually desire that. What I actually desire is like a mansion on the beach or on the mountain or whatnot. And eventually, this is going to be this place where I will live, where I want to, or I didn't think about it, or that or that. And when you do actually go to the core of your desires and you manifest them in this new moon, you will find out that either you get the wealth or the means or the connections or what you need to assemble things together, or you will readjust your vision. Okay, to give a concrete example, when I learned about people investing in gold, in silver, and holding it in Switzerland, then I thought, well, it's impossible for me. And then I was like, well, why won't I just put money aside, even like $1, and think about it and gather that. And then some money was put aside, and I was like, hey, I might be able to actually invest in gold. Maybe I can buy some gold. And then I saw just literally a YouTube video about people who were worshiping a mountain, and gold miners, companies that gold mine, decided to mine this mountain, ruining the ecosystem of the people. And I was like, and learning how the metals are created by magma. And magma is something that happens in volcanic eruption. It is also part of earthquakes, of storms, of tsunamis. Okay, and I was like, oh damn, we're mining the earth from these metals. We're killing the people. We're threatening everybody who worships the mountains and just wants to have the minerals through the water, through the plantations, um, through the ecosystem that exists there. And then would the earth creates more magma, so we have excess volcanic eruption, which of course contributes to changed climate from within. It doesn't mean that changed climate is not a cosmic thing, blah, 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 of course. But also there's contribution from within. There's like, oh, we're mining the earth from the metals, and then we have excess magma to create more metals, which we mine, and we can't, the earth can't take it anymore. And I'm like, okay, then I want to buy a mountain and have the gold there, but then I would need like legions of people to protect this mountain. And I'm like, okay, I'm opening up again the mindset of how to actually enjoy wealth and think of wealth as the clear water that I drink, or the oxygen in my lungs from the trees, um, and also like the uh, conception that I have of wealth, or of having gold or jewelries of gold. I'm like, okay, I would need to know in what dosage it's okay to have this, that is good for the planet. And like I much rather wear, saffron, you know, like, or something that is also signal of royalty and signal of luxury even, than have a gold ring. Like I can have wealth, I can have luxury, I can have all that, and in a way that is more in alignment with genuine wealth. Okay, those are exactly the type of new beginnings that you'll be having. There's something that you didn't imagine could be, but just tending to it and opening your mind and making that great pitch, um, makes it possible. And then you get to the nitty gritty of things, then your goal might change, the way you go about it might change, um, and adjustments will need to be made, which will eventually be made, and you'll go and you'll proceed with your updated plan or your updated fated course of events. This is actually way better than you had expected. Okay, so I'm not unaware of the frustration that can come up at around September as where planets begin to be all retrograde, and what you started in March is like, I was so optimistic about that. Now there are so many things that I need to process and rethink and go through. Yeah, that's what, like, we begin something new, and then we go to the nitty gritty of adjusting our fantasies, our dreams, our goals and dreams. Eventually, you do find that the core essence of what is actually desired is manifesting. Um, so, my suggestion for this new moon, with Aries, again, it's your identity, your sense of self, carnal desires, um, getting ahead in the world, mindset, vitality, okay, the head, um, and to some extent the nervous system, hands, maybe something to do with your hands, with Mars being here in Gemini. All of those things can be of a new beginning. And I see we do have time to go sign by sign. So let's go a bit of a sign by sign of where do you have this? Ascendant Virgo. So Ascendant Virgo, this is happening in your 8th house of events, generational wealth. I call this house generational wealth because the patterns you have in this house are generational. And attuning to the wealth that is generational. Perhaps you're starting a new venture that derives its force from generational wealth. Okay, maybe you're connecting with your ancestors. Maybe you're having a new approach in regards to the way your ancestors and your family has dealt with debt. You rediscover generational wealth that you had. Okay, when did our ancestors stop owning a house or owning land? What happened there, and why? And how do I bridge the new and the old? When did my ancestors have debt or didn't have debt, and why? And how am I renewing the relation to depth in air? Did I have occultists, witches, witchcraft? Do we have some generational trauma? And how do we see it from a new point of view? We see reality from a new point of view that was not available for us before that, okay? Which, of course, will need readjustment. Um, it can be the resources you have also with your spouse or business partner. So you can just, look into how do you make something new, maybe new partnerships, some optimistic pitch. Maybe you have married way over your league, and you're like, okay, should we do prenuptial, how, and so on and so forth. Ascendant Libra. So for you, this new moon is happening in your seventh house, the first phase of your seventh house. So that can be relationship partners, romantic partners, business partners, and open enemies. So you are having an optimistic new beginning. Maybe you marry someone, okay? Maybe you become committed with someone, or maybe you're just thinking about long-term partnership. Maybe in your life you just thought, about romance and did not commit, and now you have a brand new beginning. You open up a clean page and like, I want a long-term relationship, or I am actually good with having someone to work with. I want a partnership. I want to be an entrepreneur, but not a solopreneur, but have a partnership with someone that we can do business together. You can also have an optimistic view of how you tackle enemies. So there's this love your enemies, love my haters, and so on and so forth. That could be the spirit of the day, or be optimistic. Have martial arts that is optimistic, that tries to bring the excess energy back to the ground, and create peace. So and it's not afraid of it's not afraid to defend itself, but is also not afraid to sign a peace treaty or peace agreement. Ascendant Scorpio. So for you, this is happening in the sixth house, and this could be pets, labor, work, the service that you do to others in your physical health. Just a brand new beginning. Maybe you adopt a pet, um, and maybe you start a new job. Maybe you get fired, okay? Maybe because of vertex here, it can be a bit unexpected. So maybe you get fired, but you are actually optimistic that you will find something that better suits you, and you can see the connection between your physical health. Look to the connection. Your physical health, especially the nervous system, or maybe your hands, maybe you've had a bit of arthritis. If so, then it's good to create. I suggest you watch Mark Bayersky on arthritis, if that is the case for you. Um, and so the antidote is to start a creative new beginning in this field. And perhaps you need to be doing something with your hands that is more artistic, or that is expressing the nature of your true desires, so that you have better health, and your labor is contributing to your well-being rather than draining your physical health, right? You want them, if you think about security or cash flow or income, then you want to understand that eventually our body always, like, there's what our body can do, and it's good to celebrate what our bodies can do, and it's good to have optimistic approach, or you can suddenly do things you didn't think you can do. That being said, your work has to benefit your physical and emotional health, okay, physical mental health. um, there is no detours around that. Like, your body will only take so much before it poof collapses. And so with this new beginning, if you are too optimistic about what your body can do, then the retrograde is probably going to mean an accident, physical ailment, or in the best of cases, being resigned or being fired. Okay, but if you are optimistic and you readjust your skill, because even if you're working in the best of job or you're the most passionate, even then you still need to slow down and you still need to rest, so that you can give your service to the world, and then you are even more healthy when you are working than if you didn't work. Okay, when I'm recording these videos, and now I have the moon in my sixth house. So nothing urges me to record these videos, in the sense that, like, it's an entrepreneurship, and I do it because I feel even better. Okay, my health, my well-being, I feel better. I feel that my body already needs to bring this into air, and is waiting to record, and is waiting to do this. And even though I was tired, I began to record this, and I already feel better. So if I do it to excess, yes, I will get tired. Yes, I will get sick. But if I if I do it in moderation, which I'm learning, then I will actually get better, get invigorated, and it will contribute my absorption of vitamins, my heart health, okay, sun ruled sixth house, my eyesight, and so on and so forth. Ascendant Sagittarius. This new beginning is happening in your fifth house of creative projects, hobbies, gamblings, and children. So all of the above could be significations for you. Um, and yeah, Jupiter, the ruler of your sign, is in Aries, separating from a conjunction with Chiron. So you're probably more realistically optimistic. You've probably healed something around your beliefs already when there was conjunction between these two. And you're ready for this new beginning. I think that for you, you probably have the potential to be one of the people who are the closest to making a step that, with all the corrections and adjustment, will end up very, very um, satisfactory for you. Because, again, your Jupiter, your philosophy, is healing from something and is optimistic for a reason. Here, optimism and reasoning, Aries is reason. You're optimistic for a reason, and this tremendous like fire energy, the ignition of something, it can be very positive for you. Yes, you will need to readjust, and you also understand. You're of the sign will understand that even if at first you try to walk, then you slip and you fall and you this and you that, and maybe even like bruise your knee or whatnot. Eventually, all babies, like most babies, do walk. Okay, and so the chances are that you just keep at it and readjust and learn and try something new, and you will prevail. You will make it. Um, Capricorn. Capricorn, this is happening in your fourth house. So, granted that you're not dying, because fourth house is the grave, but you know what? You could actually even think about death or think about what would you like there to be after you die. With Pluto in your first house, then you can think even optimistically about death. Not in the sense of desiring it, but not being so afraid of it, perhaps not being so afraid of death. This is the type of sign, a fire sign, so you think about cremation of a body rather than, putting it in the sand or something like that. Um, and thanks, Victor, for the inspiration. Um, but you can also have this new beginning around your house, the house of your where you grew up at, or where you are, the house that you are making, or the physical house that you are living in. So you might want to renovate. You might want to, um, because Mercury is there, you might want to buy a house. You might want to change a contract. Maybe you're renting, maybe rent something new, someplace new. Um, and with Jupiter, your beliefs around your house, your beliefs about what you can do with your own home. It can be the relations between the people that you grew up with, or if you are, a household owner, then the relationship with people in your household. You might have an awakened sense of optimism and faith in the ability to have good relations. Um, you might be crafty in your home, but Mercury is something in your hands. You might do, small solve problems or fix things in your home. Um, um, Trade in your home or something like that. Trading homes. Um, and there's definitely a wound that you're addressing that you have addressed already, that is allowing you while Chiron is still in Aries, it's still there. It's allowing you to purge a couple of phases and have a breath of fresh air where you are. Um, yeah, Aquarius. So Aquarius, this is happening in your third house of close friends, siblings, and neighbors, your environment and communication, and the daily routines um, that you do. And here again, you might have a new neighbor. You might have a new connection, correction of connection with siblings, with neighbors. You might have a new friendship or a new approach to a certain friendship, which will need to be worked through and readjusted. Um, Ascendant Pisces. This is happening in your second house of skills, values, sense of self in terms of your self value, and the way you make money and what you spend money on. So it's a big house. It's not the first house, but it is a big house. And far-fetched pitches, skill that you didn't imagine you could learn, something that you didn't imagine you could do. If you're trying for something here now, it's better to try for something, even though Mercury is small, but the small things that are big, okay? Think about painting the picture that you will sell for $1 billion. Because again, because it's so unrealistic, then um, you might end up sending, selling that picture for $100,000, where otherwise you could, granting that the dollar will hold its value, for otherwise you would have tried to maybe gift it or save it to yourself or hide it in a drawer or maybe donate it or maybe sell it for $10. So if you get this grandiose, grand vision and act on it, now you have the ability to extend your skill as well. Doing thought experiments with Mercury here, Mercury Aries, so thinking a game, okay, a game with the thought. So, and Jupiter in Aries, so thought experiment. Even if you haven't given that a shot, maybe you come from an academic background that did not support thought support people or would think of you in a way like, oh, you're this, or you think yourself to be so and so. Who do you think you are? Do a thought experiment. Were you Einstein? Were you did? Were you that? Like, no, it's the environment that you're having that can be very limiting, and so many people have so many insights. And if you don't practice thought experiment, how will you ever get good at that? Okay. It's a great time to immerse yourself in a new language. I was born and raised Hebrew speaking. Um, don't think that other than my Israeli accent that translates today because I did immersion. Um, so you can immerse yourself in a new language, learn to do something with the hands, maybe competition even, trade, speculative, not investments, but yeah, it is just more like the skill of pitching that you have, or communication that you have, marketing, and or even fixing things. Okay, doing things with the hands, even technical skills that you can have with technology that you didn't think you can have. Maybe you can learn a new skill and make a lot more money that you could have. Your sense of self, more radical acceptance. Here, philosophically, you're already more radically accepting. Venus is conjunct, and now is conjunct in Chiron. There's a more radical acceptance of who you are, being more comfortable in your own mind, in your own skin, with your own opinions, your own. You got a mind of your own right now, and your mind is set anew for this new beginning already. Now, this new beginning takes place. So, keep acting on things. And you might not act at like acting on things not necessarily at the day of the moon, but when the moon actually almost reaches Gemini or the moon in Gemini, you might make an action over the insights and the energy that was set in the new moon. Okay, with the first crescent moon, and then the moon will be in Gemini. So think about your fourth house, huh? Ascendant Aries. Everything is in your first. This is stellium in your first. And this is a preparation because it's like an increased energy that is coming towards you, preparing you for the eclipses, the first of which will be in April 30. So in the axis of Aries, Libra. And, and so you're heading for 2023, 2024, and I believe also some of 2025, where there's a lot of activity in your own life path. Um, so you're getting to assimilate the energy of having a ton of energy in your house. A ton of energy, not in your house, your physical house, a ton of energy around you, within you, directed at you. Um, New beginning, emphasize on your psychological healing around things, whether it's your physical body, or your life path, where you're heading, um, is going through tremendous transformation, your own identity, who you are. Okay, Aries is the sense of self, regardless of which house it appears. Okay, if you have it in the seventh house, that you might identify yourself with your relationships. If you have it in the ninth house, then you might identify yourself with your studies or your worldview, your religion, or the place you travel, or you like traveling to. Um, Having Aries in the first house is an excess of energy around your identity, around the I am. And the I am for you is going through a tremendous transformation. You might have a new definition of yourself that you will need to reestablish and rework and readjust. Maybe you're saying, I'm coming out as a transgender man. And then comes September and you're like, oh, wait, this whole gender theory is not compatible with my experience or with what I feel is healthy for me. Perhaps gender non-conforming is better, or perhaps post-gender thing is something that I strive for and I want to have in my life. So that's just one example. Um, Again, optimism. It's okay to not see the way just yet. Okay to not completely know who you are just yet. That's the phase, that's the time, that's the zeitgeist for you, and it's okay to experiment. Ascendant Taurus. So for you, this whole thing is happening in the 12th of isolation, jail, hospital, mental health. It doesn't sound too good, but it's also the house of secret bed pleasures. And think of how those themes also are related to what people do with themselves sexually when behind closed doors. So you could have an optimistic new beginning in your bedroom. Why not? And and with Aries, there's the tendency to try things. Yeah, to be careful of like accidents and stuff. Um, how is your sexual desire connected to your mental health? How is what you identify with connected to your sexual health? To how you enjoy yourself in the bedroom? To how you feel you can you be yourself in the bedroom? Because with Chiron in your 12th house, you might feel a bit limited, and it can be a limitation around your kink or the lack of. Okay, vanilla is not a cuss word, um, and that depending on what you have there, um, it's a chance to radically accept your innermost drives and passions and desires, as well as retreats to get to know yourself better. Now, as I'm recording this, Venus is conjunct in Chiron in your 12th, and this is the ruler of your first house. So you can be feeling more drained, and purging things that will play a better role. But with this new moon, Venus is already in your first house. So your mental health has to do with who you define yourself to be. Understanding that what you put around, what you put after I am, in your case in particular, dictates a lot of how. That being said, whatever is in your Aries house, and now with Chiron there is a challenge around having a healthy I am definition that does support your mental health, but it is also a chance to get to know and understand how to overcome this challenge. And if you get to the core of the thing, what you put around I am, okay, whether it's in bed, whether in retreat, whether it's your self identity, things you didn't know that you attach to your self definition. You can be exposed to these right now. Um, uh, and so that can give you this new beginning, or the new idea of how to get out of situations where you might feel more isolated, or have dreams that feel out of your control, or experiences to your astral body, okay, before you reincarnate the energy body, before the physical body is going, a readjustment, the purging that will manifest later in your physical health, improved physical health along that. It's bringing rejuvenation eventually. Ascendant, Gemini. Well, this is happening in your 11th house with the ruler being in your first, especially if you have the ascendant in the last decan of, or the last phase of Gemini. So, dreams, goals, colleagues, investments in crowdfunding, um, agendas, activism, conferences, all of those things. You can apply to a new conference and actually get accepted. You can apply to a talk that, you can apply to you know, something like a TED talk, or something like a prestigious talk of some prestigious group. Top notch. Aries is a lot about top notch. Um, and actually get accepted, or not get accepted, but understanding that just your putting yourself out there is benefic to your practicing the skill of introducing yourself to large crowds. And Mars in your first house, then you need to be cautious about the body. You need to be cautious, hands, fingers, accidents, cuts, and so on and so forth. Um, but if you do get those little bruises, then my suggestion is to, wherever that bruise is, other than kiss it like you know maybe your parents used to do, you can massage it a bit. You can massage this place, and exactly, I don't like it that they show it on this finger. Like I'm showing on myself in a very particular place, and that's a bit like, it's not scary because it could be like a small bruise, but it's like I'm predicting something. But the point is that you um, uh, you mirror this place in the other side of your body, and you massage both of these parts. And let's say it's the hands or one of the fingers, then you massage the whole hand with all of your fingers. And then if you can massage your body, and try to see if you get a message, or try to see if something is happening. Before I fixed my bunions, I had at least one or two cases where I had bruising to my big toes in my feet, which was very annoying and infuriating even. Especially when you're half channeling, so you're like, you don't know if it's like some spirit that you need to banish, or what's going on, and that was like scary. And then I, like, eventually I would begin to do deeper work on these toes, and align them and fix them and protect them, and so on and so forth. um, so you might be having that experience. Hopefully not, but it can happen. Ascendant Cancer. So for you, this is happening in your 10th house of career, being a boss, relationship with the mother, um, and of course, the ruler of your ascendant is in the 10th house. So you could be, you could become a parent, by the way. You could become a mom if you're a mom. You could become a boss. Your image is going through a new beginning that will need to be readjusted. Because you're the ruler of your, because it's the ruler of your ascendant in the 10th, and it's not likely to be your boss that is going through something, but more like you. Okay, so you becoming a boss, you becoming a mom, you becoming a public figure, your status, there's a change to your status. Um, but the ruler is in your 12th house. Mars is in your 12th house with Neptune. So, again, you need to be cautious. You need to be understanding that there are certain things around this new moon that you don't know, which can really unnerve you, being a sign ruled by the moon. Um, and Mars, like, is about to leave your Mars is about to leave your 12th and enter your first, and you're like, I probably like I prefer it in the first already. And that's okay, even though Mars in Cancer is just can be overreactive and emotional, triggered, and so on. Um, so you're becoming something in the tenth, but there's some un. You have to ask, who is Mars for you? Is Mars is your boss or your previous boss, or Mars around your career, somebody in your career, being pervasive, maybe with your dream, something that's ongoing. You've had Mars in your 12th house for a while now, um, but now this new beginning is a bit tainted by this Mars square Neptune. Probably the sign who is perhaps along with Taurus, but for you, because the ruler Mars is in your 12th, um, then the hidden, the underlying, the ruler of the events is you're beginning something new, but the reasoning for that, or somebody Martian in your life, um, is doing something that consciously or unconsciously not contributing here. Now, um, like I previously said, the 12th house is also secret bad pleasures. I do not suggest in this new beginning any involvement to do with people in your career in the bedroom. Although that, like, if that's something ongoing, but that there can be implication to that, there's unconscious. If it's something, if like you're working with someone and sleeping with them, and that is ongoing way before Mars, then that might require extra attention, or there can be even intimacy things or physical, stuff that coming up for you or for the partner, that you would just need to be aware of and radically accept and overcome. And granted that the relationship is healthy overall, you'll go through this. But if it's a new initiation of something and you're probably becoming a boss, you're becoming a person of dominance, um, whoever is represented, maybe your boss, probably not your mama, right? But maybe your boss, um, or you as a boss, then there are motives here. There is hidden. It can manifest as underlying. In the worst of cases, it can be like trying to get somebody in jail or something like that. But that's like, and yeah, beyond the scope of my dealing with things. Um, but definitely, whatever this Mars is, it enters the place where you didn't know, and we don't know if this Mars is conscious or this Mars is not conscious, of what they're doing and why they're doing that. Or it can be an aspect of you if you're having a more Jungian reading, then your motives in your career are of the 12th. Okay, what you don't know that you don't know. They're hidden. They can be addictions. And again, there can be a situation where there is something going from the 10th to the 12th that shouldn't be, or that would put you in tremendous situation that would be more difficult to overcome than for other ascendants. Everybody will have a September of, nitpicking. We would be nitpicking at our own plans so that we can ensure that things manifest in the correct way. Nitpicking at your own 12th house when there's an exposed scandal of, let's say, something you had with someone you had with this, with that, and there was a boss issues between you two, it can be one of the things that are more difficult to overcome. So, um, look at what is Mars. Mars in Gemini. Pay attention to your hands, your fingers, your um, penis. Listen to the body somatically. They will tell you, you know, your dick is not sexist, right? Um, your hands, like, do you have some like bruises or things or something like that? Study the meridians. As much as you can. And some of it is either fated or not in your control, but some of that you can get by the signs of the body that there's something going on. Don't ignore that. Shoulders, of course. Yeah, shoulders as well. You might feel the tension. You might feel it in your shoulders. If you're, let's say, receiving a promotion, and and you approach somebody, you feel something in your shoulders, something in your hands, or something, down there, then it doesn't necessarily mean what you think it means. It just, you need to go, you retreat into yourself, rethink the situation, and try to see what information comes up, because it can tell you about something that's not even related to that person. You don't want to put yourself, like, those can be ways that you can avoid that fate. Ascendant in Leo. So, ascendant in Leo, this is happening in your. Um, wait a minute. We talked about the 10th house, so this happened in your ninth house. Brand new beginning, with the ruler in your 11th. So, traveling, starting something. You might apply to Ivy League and think, what are my chances? Then you got accepted. Okay. You might start a degree and then we have to readjust the topic of studying. Anyway, it's good that you apply. Anyway, it's good that you travel. Anyway, it's good that you take on this interest in this new spiritual whatnot. So, not too worried about you as an ascendant in this case. You can actually greatly benefit from this new beginning, even if it will need readjustment. And yeah, for some of the ascendants, I had a lot of information. For some of the ascendants, like, it's just not as worrying. It's not that it's not significant. Again, if you're ascendant Leo, it can be one of the most significant times of your lives. Um, because who knows, right? Jupiter in your ninth house. Maybe you meet the love of your life in academia or whatnot, but or traveling. But for some of you, just needed a bit more sifting and sorting, so I can give you the most correct information you can without much reading into. So that was the 12 ascendants, and I'll just leave with that. If you want to pamper my Patreon, then I'll find a way to link it below. You can go to my channel. because I do plan on making my content my income, as my schedule is very particular and I'm about to have Saturn in my first house, so I don't know how, like, I don't know if I will be able to like give you personal readings. Not just that I don't want to, it's just that I don't know if I can right now in terms of my schedule and my health. um Anything more? Yeah, I'm Tali Share on Twitter, Shelly Amblet on Instagram, and I'll see you in my next video. You can comment down below where Aries is for you, or you can return to this video and tell me about what actually happened for you in this new moon. And see you. Bye bye. Oh, of course, subscribe to my channel, share with people, and so on. And you need to click the bell if you don't. You need to click the bell after you do subscribe, because otherwise you don't get the notifications. Yeah.